Everybody, do I have a treat for you today on Ctrl+Alt+Delete? I don't even know what to say except how excited I am and so honored to have Monique Russell here today. She is someone that I have admired from afar. And this all happened because I was on a podcast, shout out to Angel Jones and 12 Mini Convos. And the same day I was on that podcast, Monique was. And what she did is she reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, I saw you were on the show today. We were there, we both had episodes. Let's connect. I just have to say there's something about someone who reaches out on LinkedIn with a real reason for reaching out, because whatever the divine connection was at that point, here we are probably 3 years later. I can't even begin to tell you, but since the time that she reached out, I've been following her work and I asked her to be on the show. And the cool thing is she has a new book out that perfectly aligned with the timing. So just get ready. Whether you are leading your company or you are leading your home, whether you are parenting little ones or you've got an empty nest or a fur baby, this episode's for you, because what we're going to talk about today has to do with finding your voice, being an effective communicator, and really bringing forward your truth in a way that can be heard, seen, and respected, as well as appreciated, right? In the world that we are in today, people are shutting down. They're afraid of their jobs. They're not speaking their truth. They're just barely hanging on. And I want to just put that conversation on the table. And the thing I want you to know about Monique is her passion for motherhood and career inspires me. Just as we all know, I work to help women get back to work. Monique does as well. And Monique, I'm so glad you're here.
Lisa, I mean, you are so inspiring. This welcome that you've given me is just really appreciated. Thank you for embracing me, and thank you for accepting that LinkedIn connection, because, not everybody does. So
I know. They're like, what is this, a spam? I'm like, no, this is real.
Yes.
Right? I could tell because you were authentic, and that's part of communication, right? You get those LinkedIn requests like, hey, nice profile. Or, and then they write you back. The reason, I'm guessing there's 3 reasons you haven't written back. I'm like, you don't get out of my inbox. Yeah, that's not Monique, right? So let me tell you about everyone. I'm going to tell you why Monique is here. And I'm going to read this to you because it's just so beautiful. So our friend Monique Russell is originally from the beautiful islands of the Bahamas and Nigeria. I'm already there in my head. I'm already there. She's an inspirational teacher helping women, leaders, and teams turn likes to loves. And I want to really double click on that today, likes to loves, because if you don't want to burn out, get out of like land. Let's get into love land, right? And she does that in business and life using effective communication skills and strategies. So hold on, peeps. We got some good stuff for you. She leads the global communications firm, Clear Communication Solutions. Great name, by the way, because it's so clear. She hosts the Bridge to You, Understanding and Black Unity. Thank you for that. And she's the author of The Ultimate Speaker's Guide and, drum roll please, a book that I read, Intentional Motherhood. Now here's the tagline. Who said it would be easy? And I was talking to Monique when we got on. I'm like, same thing with leadership. Who said it would be easy, right? There's so many pull-throughs here. Monique, congrats on your book. So happy for you to get your message out.
Thank you, Lisa. It has been a labor of love, and it feels like I have another baby.
Oh, you do have another baby. Like, this is out for the world. And this is the journey on likes to loves for working mothers. And guess what? There's a lot of them out there dropping out of the workforce right now. And we are here to inspire, incentivize in the way of love, not like bribery, but really talk about what matters and what's your legacy, as well as for all the people that are listening that are looking to fill open positions. You want to consider mothers, because we've got some truth bombs for you. So let's just start there, Monique. Like, what is it for you about this book and intentional motherhood and taking likes to loves? How did you get there? Like, how did you birth this baby? What's the story behind it?
Well, first, originally I wrote it because my own personal journey going from, having this view of what motherhood should be, what it should look like. And, I am a mom of 2 boys, right? So my eldest is 20, my youngest is 14. And I also had an opportunity to sort of give guidance to some of my younger cousins as they were growing up. It takes a village thing.
Oh, yeah.
But so my journey through motherhood separately. And then in addition to my work, like working with moms, I mean, in their professional lives, this is what we focus on. But of course, we know we're moms. So the other aspects come up too. And I said, you know what? At the end of this day, not this day specifically, but the day, I want to leave something that I wish I had when I first started. And it's just that whole journey of introspection, understanding why I do what I do, why I was parenting the way I was parenting, very rigid in the beginning, my son had to tell me a little bit about that. And then I realized that, you know what, I would really like to leave something behind for my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-great-grandchildren, so they could say, you know what, Grandma Monique wrote this book, and this is what she felt or feels about the role of us as women, as moms, and as working moms, because my grandmothers, both of them, they didn't work in the workplace. And so they didn't have that desire to feel like, they wanted to go out in the workplace. They were comfortable being at home, but that wasn't really the case for me,
Yeah.
And so I wrote the book, I went on this process, and in writing the book first for my own family, and then I realized that this is something that's way bigger than me and my family. It's for women everywhere, and not just women, because I've had a lot of guys pick up the book and read it too. Yeah. So this is how it was birthed. I said this journey of likes to love. I used to be the people pleasing queen. And then I realized now that was a behavior of being in like with myself. I wasn't yet in love with myself. So that whole awareness, I was like, you know what? I got to put this in a book. I really have to.
I'm really, really glad you did. And if anyone's watching the video, I'm not crying. I'm having an allergy moment. It's hilarious. As Monique's talking, I'm all in, and these tears are dripping down one eye because I have allergies right now. But maybe I'm crying too, right? Like it could be both.
Good theatrics for me.
Right? Here's what I know. Motherhood and career, it's not easy. And if you're in like with yourself, you are going to burn out. You got to really be in love with yourself. And when I'm reading your book, I thought so much about when I became a mom at 43. So I'm on the other side. I gave everything to my career for many years, and then I had a long journey of infertility. So when she came along and I was so much an autopilot at work, I thought I could just keep going the way I did. And it was a rude awakening to be sleep deprived and doing what I was doing. And then wanting to be with my kid, my child, this amazing gift, miracle in my life, and yet really wanting to work. And the shoulds, the grief, the societal pressure and stories that I made up in my head about what it should be like to be a working mom. And, I remember the day I put my daughter in preschool, and she was like 2.5. And I put it on my Facebook page. And I remember, I took a picture of us, like, drop off worked well. I only cried for 10 minutes. Right. And I did park my car around the corner and watch for a while. And somebody said, why would you do that? You need to take her out of preschool. Like I got mom shamed big time. Oh. And Monique, I shut that down so fast. I just blocked the person. I didn't even have the dialogue. Good. Because I was already so emotional, frail and fragile. Right. And then for someone to tell me I was, how can I do that? I'm going to damage my kid. By the way, my daughter's amazing. It was the first time I thought, I got to be really clear on what matters to me and what my motherhood, what my role as a mom and someone with a career, what are my values and what do I cherish and how do I want to show up? And I really know that was a compelling moment for me. So I'm glad you have this book out here. I'm so glad people can really take a look inside and look at what likes to love is. So can you talk a little bit more about that in the context of, through the people that I support? We're always talking about being energized and not burning out, tips and strategies and tools. And I think at that moment, I could have easily just gone home and cried, but I also really stepped into the fact that I did want to work. I love what I do. I want to be, in my mind, a whole person through my own value, not anyone else's. Right. And so, let's talk about likes to loves and what that means for, let's just say working parent. And then whatever mom stories we have, it's great, right? How can we not have our own stories? Yeah, I really love to know more. I'd love to know more.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing is, when I hear your story too, Lisa, it's like that awakening moment was also the defining piece for you to say, okay, this is part of my motherhood identity, right? And I think so many times as moms, we get into that role and we just, continue going on that autopilot, and we don't really stop to say, okay, what should this really look like? We have our plans for everything else, our careers. We have a full roadmap of where we want to be
Right?
5-10 years. Even our vacations, we
Yep.
have where we're going to eat, we map the whole thing out. But when it comes to our motherhood role, we just leave it for default.
Yeah.
So like you named this podcast Ctrl+Alt+Delete. It's almost,
Mhm.
you have to take a reset and say, okay, what does this really mean for me? And get grounded in that vision for yourself, that identity for yourself, so that when those comments come up or people have different opinions that may not fit into your vision, you're feeling strong in yourself and not really embracing that guilt that comes with so many of the actions that we choose to do.
Yeah.
So the whole aspect around likes versus loves is, it's really, when people talk about being in love with themselves or loving themselves, a lot of times they're referring to the external behaviors, which are important. They're referring to, I take care of myself. I'm wearing nice clothes. I'm going on vacations. I'm getting massages and hair done, or whatever have you. I'm having hobbies and things like that. But really, if you think about it, the love, and I'm using love, defining it in a way where it's focused on something that is internal.
Yep.
There's no tangible aspect around it. So we're talking about being gentle with ourselves, acknowledging what the emotions that are coming up when we are going through stressful periods. It's about having that self-control. So when we do feel tired, we're stopping, and we're not saying we're going to push through and push through and push through. Like, that's a loving behavior. To embrace and honor your emotions, that's something that's loving. When you are practicing this loving behavior, it's like your boundaries are clear and you are very open to expressing them, even if you may feel temporary discomfort because someone on the other end may not like what you're saying. But when we're still liking ourselves, we're still in that pleasing mode, we may let fear get in the driver's seat, and ultimately we're the one that ends up suffering silently. Those emotions turn inward, and then they manifest in not being able to sleep and not being able to eat, and all of those different things. So that journey of likes to love requires self-awareness, intense awareness about yourself as an individual, the times you thrive when you're working, best, and what energizes you. How are you going to cope when your emotions are feeling a little bit low? All of those things influence the embrace of loving yourself. And then
Yeah.
when you get into the relationships with people, and you're getting into relationships with your family and your children, those behaviors are also allowing them to express themselves. But it's hard for us to let other people express themselves when we aren't familiar with expressing our own truths, or we're not practicing it. So it's like we're
Yes.
we're mirroring what we're feeling, and it makes it difficult in the workplace for us to allow someone to express themselves.
Oh my gosh. Can I say amen? Well, it's hey, wait, I'm the host. Amen. Oh my gosh. So my mind is just like, my mind is exploding right now, because what you're touching on is something that I've never heard it said this way before. And I'm so glad you said it the way you did, because it's a pull through here. When we think about, leading, and those that you lead in love is one of the things I say all the time, because it's who you are as a person, right? I can't even begin to tell you how many executives, are in my virtual office just talking about there's not enough time, da da da. I'm just so overwhelmed, and everybody wants a piece of me, and there's nothing left for me. And we just start to look at what lights you up, what makes you happy, everything you just said. But I've never framed it to them as a loving action. I've always looked at it with them more like high productivity, or really maximizing your time. And I believe love belongs in the workplace, but I never thought about it this way until right now, Monique, about the self-love piece. I always thought about love for others, love for your company, your customers, the planet, and then love for your team. and being a servant leader. But you're talking about like something at home. For me, it's the soul level, which is I'm important too. And I'm going to make sure I'm okay so that everybody else can be okay. Am I
Yes,
hearing you right?
yes,
Okay.
you're hearing me
This is
100%
fab.
right. It's interconnected.
Yes.
It's interconnected. So
Yeah.
that if I don't have enough time for myself, but
Yep.
I feel like I'm giving my team enough time or I'm loving my team, we're still living in a little bit of a delusional status. Like we're
Yeah.
liking, yeah, we're liking
We're
because you're
liking.
not
Yeah.
giving your optimum or giving your best. You're giving your team your leftovers or what's the low battery end of you. But
Yeah.
imagine if you could fuel yourself all the
Mhm.
way up,
Mm.
and you can give your clients and and the thing about it is people they know the difference
Yeah.
between when you're operating, in a space where you're feeling fulfilled, and there's no judgment here at all. I just want to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah.
But
Yeah. You can feel the
you can
energy, right?
feel
You
it.
can
You can
tell.
feel it.
Yep. Even when your kid is like, you're like, I'll be right there. And they're like, well, you're on your phone again. They can feel it too, right? Even if you're in another room. When I'm in the other room and human, right? Mom, I'll be right there, honey. Okay, get off your phone or you won't be here for 10 minutes. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, right? Like, okay. Snap. Right?
Lisa, it's a thing. It's a
Right?
thing. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
They know when I say I'm coming, it means like, give me 40 minutes.
Oh, totally. My husband too. He's like, okay, is that like the I'm coming now, or is that like the 20 minutes from now? Right. And so, yeah, I mean, everyone can feel it. And what I'm hearing you say, and I really, really want to just highlight for anyone listening, I don't care what role you have at work. It doesn't matter how high up you go. Or, if you're entry level intern all the way to the board member, right? Or, heck, an angel investor, it doesn't matter. Everybody can feel it. And so what we're really talking about, Monique, is almost like a global culture shift, if you will, to go from like to love for yourself. Because
Yep.
what I know, even though I hadn't had these words, what's just like downloading for me is imagine you wake up in the morning and you're rested and there is time and you are having deep conversations with people that you love. Your company is innovating the next best tape out. Your children are excited for whatever is going on in their world. Your pets aren't anxious. That all starts with us. Like we're the driver of our own ships. And I know it's like, well, there's nothing left to give. And you're saying, well, you can't afford not to give to yourself because of, if you want the legacy, you want the impact, you got to go there first. Yeah.
Yes, and not just the legacy and the impact, because it's like the connection. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I feel like we all desire to be connected. We want to. No one, even the most toxic boss, no one says, I want to be hated. I want to be disrespected. I don't want to be liked. I don't want anyone to not connect with me, even the most toxic boss.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
have that desire, but when we are shortchanging ourselves, we keep those guards up and we can't really have a deep conversation. We're doing it. We're having those conversations on a checklist. It's like
Yes.
you come
Yes.
home, you give your husband a kiss, and
Yep.
you're doing your routine. Those
Yeah.
are they're not present behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the conversations you're having, they're very surface level. They're not truly connecting.
Yeah, I just had a flashback of my own experience. I used to get thank you cards from somebody and I didn't really appreciate them because it felt like it was autopilot, right? There's a thank you card that says, Lisa, what you did on this project at this time had this result. Thank you for your efforts versus thanks for a great job. It's that next level. It's that next level, from autopilot to next level.
Ooh,
So what are your tips then? What do you tell your clients and your readers and your listeners to go from like to love for themselves? You do have a couple of quick tips to make it actionable for people today? Because I get you don't boil the ocean in one day, but what's something someone can do today to move from on the way to love?
Well, I say tap into the imagination, right? So start with the reflection.
Yep.
Start with an honest assessment of where you are and ask yourself, rate yourself in the areas where you feel you need more support, where you feel your tank isn't, thriving or being fulfilled. And then reflect, ask yourself, well, when was the last time that I actually felt, strong in this particular area? ask yourself these questions so that you begin to identify the conditions and the environment that helped you thrive or helped you to get to that place. And then from there, just the aspect of reflection often builds momentum. You start to see patterns and you start to get this awareness, and now you're able to, say, okay, if this is what I did before, then maybe I can take, a new step similar to what I did in the past, or you may decide to choose something completely different. Once you're done with that reflection, I say you have to share it, get into a community. If it's just one or two people, share it with someone that you know who will support you in reaching this new goal. Those are the first two things that I would say, because if you don't have that vision, again, you're going to go on the autopilot and you're not going to have that strategy or the action to say, this is what will help me to begin in this area. And then I would say, plan to have a cocktail of communication skills in your development toolbox. Yeah.
I was going to go there with you. It's great. Yes. Get please.
It. Yeah, just get it. Just whatever area it is, make sure that you have those as continuous development. If it's negotiation, if it's boundary setting, if it's emotional intelligence or public speaking or mindfulness, whatever skills fall in that communication bucket, pick the one that seems most exciting for you and start to work towards it.
Yeah, I love it. And especially pick the one that's most exciting to you, so it doesn't feel like one more thing to do.
Exactly.
So I say follow the energy all the time. Like, what lights you up? Oh, that one. Okay. Because then you get the momentum, right? So I love this so much. And because this is your sweet spot, I mean, clear communications, I'd love to ask, well, I'm just going to ask you. So a lot of times what I'm hearing from people is, I don't want to push back. They do layoffs all the time. I'm worried about my job, but I really think I could make this better. Or the other thing I hear all the time is, I really just need a break. I don't need one more project right now. But they don't know how to say no or redirect, or almost what I want to say is bring someone into the solution, right? Into the problem solving space, because they're worried about their jobs. I mean, tech is always on, never good enough. We'll replace you tomorrow. It's high pressure. So when I'm thinking about, okay, we go from like to love, we work on the communication skills, and then we're more grounded in like me saying, I'm just going to erase her from Facebook, right? That doesn't matter. I'm still clear on what I want. It's easy to block someone on Facebook. It's something else to go to your boss and be like, hey, that didn't feel good, and this is what I need instead. I'm just curious about insights, a story, something that might resonate with our listeners around how they can step in to be more intentional with their communication. Because I know, your book is about intentional motherhood, and we get to the last chapter in here on intentional communication. And boy, I just want to unpack that with you.
Yeah. And I will say the fear is real, right? The fear is real. If you're in a place where you are afraid for your job and, the conditions aren't right, maybe you won't have, like you're saying, enough of that support on your own, maybe bringing in some outside counsel to help facilitate that thinking process for you to unpack and say, okay, what are all my options? Is there something that I'm missing that I could do that can help me to bring more fulfillment in this area that will help empower me to make maybe a new decision or a different choice? So having someone to facilitate or help you facilitate your thinking process is one. I'll also say, think about how to challenge certain situations without focusing on the individual. So if your boss is someone that you can't just, everything is all about how you present the information. So the chapter Intentional Conversations, it really is encouraging us to set aside time to have these specific difficult conversations. It's not just letting it sit there and fester or being very reactionary, but intentional in saying, you know what, these are the conversations that I need to have. I haven't had a conversation with my boss or my colleague or my mom or my sibling, anywhere there is some Unresolved communication. Sit down and the same way you plan your project, what are the risks? How are we going to mitigate the risks? What type of resources do I need? You're going to plan for your intentional conversation, and you're going to use language, understanding that the person on the other end may have a different communication style. So if you know how they are typically, and you may want to actually use language that makes it appear as though you're both working on this problem together. It's not you versus me, it's you and I versus this problem, right? So you're removing the pushback or the challenge or whatever onto the problem. So now you've enlisted, it's like using the buy-in tool to enlist them into helping solve this problem. But you have to get very creative with it. It's not something you're just going to go straight to,
right,
this isn't working. You have to be creative, and it's not about changing yourself. It's about adapting your communication methods and delivery and timing in order to get the job done. You may find that you have someone who, even if you try to be creative, they're not going to listen to you. Well, who are they going to listen to? Who do they respect? So again, you may need additional resources. It may not need to come from you. It may need to come from someone else, but you'll be able to identify some of that when you're sitting down intentionally planning out that conversation or thinking through, well, what is the outcome? What do I really want to happen in this as a result of this? What are the pros? What are the cons? What's the benefit to them? What's the benefit to me? What's the benefit to the organization? So I would say that would be an approach to take to lean into those difficult conversations.
Yeah, I love what you're saying so much. I actually teach influence skills, and I feel like we have the same model just in what you're saying, because the thing that I know for sure is, I'll just use a personal example at home. Like when the trash is overflowing, I could be like, well, you didn't take out the trash, blah, blah, blah. Or I could say, hey, the trash is overflowing. How might we solve that? Now, this is a very simple example, right? But I'm blaming the trash, not my husband. He's not going to get defensive with me. And he might be, well, I have 10 minutes, or we can start to do that. And the same thing, even with projects at work, this tape out's at risk. How might we solve this, right? The how might we question, for me, I just love so much, because it opens up ideation and you're not held to it. And what I love so much about what you're saying is you have to be intentional and sit down and think about it. And so many leaders are in back-to-back meetings and there's no time, right?
There's none.
And so the whole point is you got to make the time, right? Intentionality is intentionality.
Yes. Put that white space in your calendar and don't push back on it. Like, that's your thinking time.
Yeah.
So put that white space in your calendar, because the truth is, you said it, Lisa, the industry is a little bit cutthroat. They can replace you tomorrow. And so use that same awareness to say, well, I need to put the white space in my calendar because I could be replaced tomorrow.
Exactly.
Because at some point you just lose the efficiency of your work.
Yeah, big time. Yes. Oh my gosh. This is, yeah. I love talking to you. I just want to, I'm exploding, right? So when you have a chapter in here, when you start to talk about the positive motherhood affirmations, I'm looking at page 27. And what Monique's book has is she actually has places where you can actually write in things for yourself. And I started thinking how anyone could use this. I'm the type of mother who, right, embraces difficult conversations as your example. You can say this as the leader. I'm the type of leader who, right? Or I'm the type of sister who, or I'm the, uncle, whatever. So I think I want to just touch base on this a bit, because the positive piece, the affirmations piece, when you are in the do loop of beating yourself up, and let's say you're in not love with yourself, I believe that affirmations are underutilized, amazing tool that can help you move very quickly from stuck to possibility. And I just wondered if you could, double click on this a bit for us, especially for those listening in who are like, that all sounds great, but I don't have time. Because what I'm really seeing in this exercise that you do is it's defining who you are, so that then it becomes important.
Yep. It's all a part of that identity piece, right? So the identity piece, and it doesn't have to take that long. Once you have determined the values that are very important to you, the things that really make you come alive, those are indications that your value is attached to it. Mm-hmm. So once you identify that, you may not be at that place just yet, but the affirmation is almost like a pull. You know, it's like a reminder. It's like that post-it note that you're like, don't forget to call the plumber. You post it there, but the affirmation is almost that pulling measure to your identity as a leader. So what type of leader do you want to be? What type of leader do you aspire to be? Are you the type of leader who, let's say, for example, embraces conflict? If you are the type of leader who embraces conflict, then you would say, okay, well, here's the conflict. What what should I do? Well, I'm the type of leader that embraces conflict. At the end of the day, you're going to think about, what do you want people to say when you're leaving your job? What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want them to speak about you when you're not in the room? Okay, well, she's the type of leader who's very inclusive. I'm an inclusive leader. I'm the type of person who's inclusive. If you are inclusive, you're not going to shut down opinions. An inclusive leader is someone who opens up. Okay, anybody else have something to add to that? Mm-hmm. What about you? Are we missing anything? These are the type of questions an inclusive leader would be asking. So that identity is helping you now to step into it and embody the identity you have for yourself. I'm the type of leader who avoids procrastination. I am the type of leader who makes good decisions. Okay. You have that on a Post-it note and you look at that and you feel stuck in the decision. You're like, I'm the type of leader who makes good decisions. All right. What's the decision here? I got to get up. I got to call somebody. I got to, you're setting your intention and you're reminding yourself, and you are practicing behaviors that align with the identity that you have. Now, are you always going to get it right? No. And that's okay. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. But you have something to go off of as opposed to this reactionary response. So it's like you're triggered. Yep. You have that stimulus, and then boom, here comes that Post-it note. I'm the type of leader who makes good decisions. Mm-hmm. So that is almost the pause in between the response that's sort of jolting you. You know, it's jolting you to remember, all right, I'm gonna blink again, and now I'm gonna make a different choice.
Mm-hmm. I love this so much. When I think about, I wish I had this guidance when I started my leadership journey, because boy, right? Because when I write something down and I hold myself accountable, magic happens, right? If I just think about it and it's not out there, then, I can always change my mind because I feel less tied to it.
Yes.
But I think about, we're talking about being intentional in life. That's really where this is going, right? So if you don't want to burn out and you want to be energized, what I'm hearing you say, and I'm firmly aligned with you, is, be very clear on your values, right? Because if you're not in alignment with your values, you're already drained somehow. Mm-hmm. And then have these affirmations, or, I guess a brand board or something that will remind you of the leader that you are intentionally working on being, and that you would be in love with, because we're talking about love, right? Yes. And loving ourselves. So when I think about the industry that tech is, which is basically people are our number one asset, and yet we're laying people off every time we have a budget problem. I want to say, what type of leader are you, right? And what are you doing to be creative and solve the situation on a much broader scale than just people turning into numbers very quickly when you need to make a decision? And, there's people right now that probably want to hang up on me because, well, I don't have the power and I don't have the authority. And I say, well, that's something to reflect on. Are you the type of leader that raises, multiple solutions to a problem? At least that alone. I'm the type of leader that looks at many aspects to solve a problem.
Ooh, that's powerful, okay. Lisa. Right? I'm gonna write that one down.
Yeah, or I'm the type of leader that has the difficult conversations, even though I believe, management's mind is made up, because then I can stand in my truth, right?
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. And so I just love this so much. I'm wondering, is there an affirmation for you that when you took it on was a game changer? Because I know you are the master of this stuff. So
well, the example in the book is my own, the one who embraces difficult conversations.
Yes. So we'll go back to that example, right? Yes. I love it so much. And that's honestly, Monique, if I'm the type of leader that embraces difficult conversations, that's going to flow through everywhere. And if everyone just wrote that down today and tried it out for a week, watch how you feel. watch how you're showing up. And then it actually causes you a moment to pause because, oh, wait, I just wrote that down about myself, right? I really want that. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it's yours. It's your book. First of all,
it was a game changer. It is
yes,
a game changer for
yes,
me. And I will
yes,
tell you, my parents, they will tell you, they're like, I just so admire your transparency and your honesty. You know, it's something that it makes me feel energized when I know that I can speak honestly about something.
yeah,
And I'm not worried about what it may look like on the outside or what it may feel like temporarily. I know at the end of the day, I feel really proud of myself for honoring
yeah.
that conversation. So,
Well,
and
and I want to
freedom is another one too.
freedom. Yes. Okay. Blah. This is how I get when I'm so excited. The words are faster in my brain than my mouth. So you had an example that I thought would help so many people right now. So in her book, we are on page 20. She talks about you're here, Monique. Monique, you talked about
Let me get to page 20.
Birthing your identity, right?
Yes.
And one of the things you talked about was, let's just say, being versus doing. And I really want to double click on this because I think it's so important. You gave the example of someone who's a cook. I'm a cook instead of I'm a foodie. Like a foodie loves to cook, but doesn't have the obligation to cook every meal. And then you went to the gym example. You were like, I'm going to go to the gym to lose weight. Well, how many people are going to the gym to lose weight? And then you turned it and you said, what if you labeled yourself instead as a fitness enthusiast? And I wrote it on I have it here because I need that. Like, what if you're a fitness enthusiast instead of obligated to go to the gym to lose weight? Like the energy around it.
Doesn't it feel different? Doesn't it?
So different. And with everything that's going on, and we're encouraging people to fall in love with themselves and to build their brand, their affirmations. I feel like there's some magic here. I just want to unpack real quick. So whatever you feel inspired to say right now, I want to, whatever this reframe magic is, or what's the secret sauce for you to come up and give clients this new lens? How can we help our listeners with their own lens right now?
Yeah, so that is really just about when we're getting out of that doing, we are expanding. So we're going general, we're going broad, because when we're going very specific, now this is just for this activity.
Yeah.
But when we're going for very specific, then we're tying ourselves to these conditions. And so this love is conditional. It's not an unconditional love. Okay. It's only if I get to the gym, then I'm a good person. Then I love myself. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. We're now in conditional and unconditional love. And this is a mic drop moment because what I'm hearing you say is you want to go broad enough so that you don't then label yourself, shame yourself, feel like shit because you didn't go to the gym.
There you go. Damn. But if you are a fitness enthusiast, Lisa, guess what? You could jump up 10 times and do jumping jacks and you feel good. You could go outside, walk around the block twice. You could put on a YouTube video and do some yoga stretching and you feel good. You love yourself. You're not beating yourself up. I got to get to this gym. I got to this.
Oh my gosh. I might cry and it's not allergies, people. Like this is a game changer, I think, for so many of us who should on ourselves. So I'm going to say this. If you find yourself shoulding on yourself, like I should have gone to the gym, I should have woken up earlier, I shoulda, like, I think that's a real indicator on where you might be able to reframe to what I'm hearing you say, a broader way of being rather than something to do. Am I getting this?
You're hitting it right on. And it's tied into the identity that you have set for yourself. You've birthed for yourself. So it's not just separate. It's like you've created and rebirthed into this new identity that you've set for yourself. And then now you're supporting with affirmations to support this new identity. You're taking on this new mindset. You know, you're moving with less friction and less resistance in life.
Yeah, more aligned with really who you are inside. And I think so many people in tech just work with their brains and they've always been rewarded because they're brilliant. And what I'm hearing and what we're talking about today is integrating your head and your heart, right? It's your whole being. It's your soul's curriculum on this earth, my friends. This is about the life that you are going to live rather than just being in do mode of writing more code, doing more chips, doing, there you can be and do, but without the be and only do, I think you're on your way to burnout every time.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
miss so much opportunity. You
Yes.
miss so much opportunity to really enjoy, you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, you're with these people all day, every day. And if you're just doing and not being, you're missing out on the human connection, whether you're virtual or in person. And
There you
we're
go.
wired for connection.
We
We're
are.
wired.
There
Yeah.
you
There's,
go.
there's one more thing I really want to ask you about in here because it had such a pull through. So I'm going through all my post-its. There were things you were talking about. Oh, so good. Three parenting, okay, page 68, everybody. Three parenting patterns of abuse that have been normalized, right? And you talk about, oh, yeah. You think I'm going to skip this podcast without this part? Hello. Okay, so we're talking dictatorship, micromanagement, and perfectionism. Now, I think these are blind spots for many of us. We think we're being, loving or kind or helpful. When you redline that report with, two things that you think just have to be in there when the report was fine without it, or perhaps you're bleeding, watching over somebody so closely that they're making more mistakes than they would if you just left them alone for a little while, or perhaps it's your way or the highway, no ideas are welcome, just do it my way. I mean, talk about stifling innovation, connection, even being able to truly delegate so you can grow in your own world and help other people's grow. So I just want to say, Monique, I'm just unleashing this, whatever you want to say, dictatorship, micromanagement, and perfectionism, whether it's in parenting or leadership or in your own world. Give us your golden nuggets here, because
Yeah,
this is
they're
important.
connected. They're
Uh-huh.
connected.
Yep.
So we lead out of what we've been exposed to. So
Mhm.
if we've seen these types of patterns in our home where, and I've been exposed to all three when in my growing up, so if we're exposed to these patterns in our home, this is what we're going to lead out subconsciously when we are in our leadership roles. So that dictatorship style is just, this is where in a work environment, that leader is feeling as though whoever is asking questions, it can be very honest questions. They're
Mhm.
feeling challenged because in their view, they are the final say, they are the boss. This is probably what they were exposed to when they were growing up. Very, very strict type of upbringing. You had very good and obedient children because they just did what they were told. You got a stamp of approval because, man, your kids are good. They do what they're told. They just do what they're told. But now when you're in that leadership role, you're operating from a similar space. Or
Mhm.
on the flip side, if you're reporting to someone and you are wanting to step out of your comfort zone or challenge yourself to speak up, it's difficult because you've been conditioned that authority figure. I can't say anything, like that's my boss. Like
Mhm.
how do I even speak up? So you feel very conflicted inside of yourself. And that micromanagement piece is like, the delegation when you're leading is so much about emotion, because it's not just giving someone something to do. It's setting those parameters, making sure you're delegating to their strengths and something that they have, not taking it back when it's not done to your level of expectation, but being able to guide them through that process and walk them through that process. Not saying I'm not going to delegate, or I'm not going to give it to them because I could do it faster and quicker and all that other stuff. But that micromanagement pattern it's like you're hovering, making sure that everything's done to your standard because you don't want to look bad, number one.
Yep. Yeah.
If everything goes right, then good, but everything goes wrong, it's on you. So again, it's that emotional piece. Whereas you may have had that exposure when you were growing up, maybe, and your family leadership style was micromanagement, making sure that you fold your socks a certain way and you put your dishes down a certain way, and not so much with this understanding that we are leading from micromanagement. It's just that notion that, what, our job as parents is to make sure that we correct the wrong so that they can have a good life, so they can be on the right track. And so we're hovering, looking for what they're doing wrong to give correction, not realizing that that is a form of stifling. So it's like that correction is more a one-stop shop, like it's shutting it down. You know, you do it this way, as opposed to, okay, tell me how you came up with that decision. I noticed you folded your socks this way. Like, what were you thinking when you were making that decision? Now we're helping them to think through and do critical thinking, problem solving. You see the same thing in the workplace. Instead of saying, no, that's not it, send it back. Okay, that's it. But I can't do anything with that. What do you mean? What should I do? As opposed to, okay, what were you thinking when you made that decision? Have you considered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What will you do if this doesn't work? So now it's a different conversation in our leadership. And the perfectionism, oh my Lord, oh my goodness, that one, especially for us women, Lisa, we got that one hard. Yeah. It is one of the hardest to crack out of. Yep. And it blocks, it stifles us. We procrastinate because we say we're doing these things in excellence, but excellence sometimes isn't just that, because if you're able to put something out and let it go and get that information back so you can test and redo it, but that perfectionism takes over, where it's like, if it's not perfect, I'm not going to release it. If it's not perfect, it has to be perfect. And we put all these expectations on ourselves, get into the workplace, we look at our colleagues, we look at our boss, and we're like, that's not perfect. You know, there's a misspelled word. And really in someone's PowerPoint presentation that has 60 slides, that the content was really good, we're focusing on something. Is it really that important? It's something that's inconsequential. It doesn't take away from the message of the presentation, but those are the things and the challenges that we run into in the leadership space when we're not aware of how our identity around leadership and love and self-love has been formed.
Amen. Hallelujah. Here's what I want to say. Like, I'm just very conscious of time because I know what's going on in your schedule, and I could keep you here all day with this. So I think I'm just going to let it land for people and say, it's worth looking at. What was your family system like? How were you raised? What beliefs are you holding? And is that perhaps creeping into your leadership style? Or how were you raised corporate wise, right? Who were your leaders and how did they show up? And how can you be the best of what they brought and leave the rest behind, right? Because we are what we know. And that's, I will leave it there. Monique, I am so grateful for your time. Everybody, you want to go get Intentional Motherhood, Who Said It Would Be Easy? And you can easily take out motherhood and write leadership. You can write fatherhood, sisterhood. How about life? Intentional living. Who said it would be easy?
Yes.
Book. But I just want to let you know, whether or not you're a mother to a person, a fur baby, or maybe you look at work as your child. I don't know. Everybody should read this book. I mean, you can, if you're looking at the video, I have so many markers here. Two things, Monique, because we always want to talk about how we raise our vibe. What's really important for me is that we leave people on a positive note as we're talking about deep subjects. And I'd love to know, what's your go-to song when you're feeling a little funked out or maybe a little low energy and you just kind of want to bring it up a notch? What's a song that you go to?
So I go to genres. So it's either Afrobeat genres or it's like a soca calypso mix.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, it's really, it's not even about the words. It's just about the beat. And I put any of those on and I just dance my little my little heart out.
Exactly. Yeah. That's beautiful. And it almost like transport you, doesn't it? Because I can see it on your face. So it's like, how can I get to my happy place? So whether or not they have the same song, what I'm hearing you say loud and clear is find something that moves your heart, because then you're going to move your body too. And then you can get back into the hard stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly.
Right. Well, so what I know is our listeners can find you at clearcommunicationsolutions.com. And the email is leadership@clearcommunicationsolutions.com.
Yes.
How else can they find you? Any other place you want?
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every week. Awesome. LinkedIn is my social media of choice. Monique Russell, Clear Communication Coach. Just go ahead and send me a connection request.
Yes. And watch the magic unfold.
Yes.
Just as my friend Monique did to me. Thank you. Thank you. We've touched so much, from motherhood to leadership to burnout to life-giving to love, self-love, limiting beliefs, affirmations, clear steps on how to communicate, how to make that white space I mean, there's so much juiciness here and so much value. And thank you for giving us your time. It's been an honor having you here.
Oh my God, the honor is all mine, Lisa. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah.
I totally enjoyed chatting with you.
Oh, I'm thrilled. All right, everybody, go find Monique, send her a LinkedIn request, and have a great day. One affirmation I'll give you that I know is you are loved and you are needed and you are powerful. So make it a great day. Thanks, everybody.